Hey, good morning. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Drawing for Tattooers. It is Monday, December 16th. I'm your host, James, and today I'm just getting started with a couple of warm-up ellipses. It's that most wonderful time of the year. We're going to be working on our self-portraits every year, once a year. I like to do a self-portrait, and I think it's been a really fun practice that I started doing really in art school, but I think it's valuable, even if even if the portraits aren't that, even if they're not all that terribly successful. Again, there's a lot of value in the struggle, right? In the difficulty. Let me see here. I got a message. Ah, very good. Streaming this morning. I sure am. Just like to check the messages. Yeah, let me know in the chat if you've got any questions, or if you want to let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see how international it is. We're on the internet, and we're all here watching this. Sometimes we're together, sometimes it's asynchronous, afterwards. But yeah, we're all connected in that way, and I think that's pretty interesting. All right, again, I'm not trying to make it too aesthetic. I really am just trying to warm up. I don't want to get too tight. Not too tight, just I am drawing ellipses. I don't know. I think I do like to go at length, right, and discuss it. An ellipse has a couple of key features, right? There is what's called a long axis, right, and then there's a short axis. They really should be perpendicular to each other, and then of course they also should be they should intersect, right, at their middle points. If you connect all those points just perfectly, you should make an ellipse. And of course, if you draw it digitally like this, your machine will snap to it, right? So it'll make a really nice ellipse for you. Anyway, you want to get better at them. You want to practice, and then of course you'll use your templates, right, when you need to. But just a couple of more. Just a couple more. Oops, I don't want to add those. All right, so my last one here. I like to do this. It's like an atomic form. I understand, right? There is this atomic form does not really look like this. This is an outdated model, but I do like that. You practice all these ellipses, and you may end up sort of having something that has a bit of geometry. Or look at mine; it's terrible. All right, I'm just warming up. All right, so, and you should warm up too. Again, so warm up your shoulder, right? Warm up your wrists. We're going to be drawing for a while today. We've got Jason Leeser coming up. Just a little in a little bit. I believe his stream is going to start at noon. So that's Skill Building Mondays at noon here on Reinventing. Okay. Well, I have a portrait that I'll share. Yeah, so this is a photograph that was taken of me at I was at Jeff Gogway's seminar in Seattle. It was amazing. I met a lot of amazing new people. Anyway, Derek from Tattoo Career Builders and Coalition Tattoo Supply was having some photographs taken. I'm sorry, Derek, I don't remember the name of the guy that was photographing for you, but he took this nice picture of me and they sent it to me. And anyway, it's a nice pro photograph. Anyway, I'm gonna draw a portrait of it, of myself, self-portrait. Every year, when I was in art school, when I was learning how to draw academically, we would have a challenge, right? We would draw ourselves in a mirror. We would sit in a mirror and we'd look at it and we would try to measure ourselves. We would use this sort of comparative measurement process, that we would really practice it all semester, right? We'd do an initial sketch. It would be, of our portrait when we first got to class, right? And at the end of the semester, we would do a new one to kind of demonstrate all the skills we've learned throughout the year, right? And it also kind of marks where you're at in your life. It really can be I think a great thing. But so self-portrait, right? All right. So I'm going to forego the looking in the mirror part of it. That is a real challenge. But the spirit of it is certainly that you set up a mirror, you set up your paper and stuff, and then you're going to draw your portrait. So, right. I'll ditch this. I have this all set up on a reference. So if you go over here to the upper part, the upper list on your Procreate, the little wrench, there is a reference tab right here. Click it. And I've already imported the image, but yeah, just get your image. And then it's a nice reference, and then it stays put, and then I can move my canvas, as it were. And it does seem to, it's a nice way to do it. So again, in lieu of the mirror, right, I'll have this sort of set up, and I think it's a bit limiting in that way, but yeah, no, I think this gives a bit of a challenge, right? And then again, we're gonna just I want to go through some of the steps I'm going to take when I'm drawing this. I'm thinking it'll probably be about half of it this week, and then the next half I'll do next week. Kind of finish it up. But if you want more in depth, you could go back and watch the video we just did on drawing a skull. I will basically repeat some of that stuff, but again, there's just maybe just another version of this. We drew a skull last time we streamed, and now kind of like moving into the self-portrait, we want to do a lot of the same things. We want to build out the structure first, right? We don't see the skull necessarily when we look at somebody's fully fleshed out face, and yet it's underneath, of course, right? It's the structure that holds up all the muscles and all the anatomy of the face. So we drew a skull, so we're thinking about it. Now we want to look through the face itself, right? Or see the skull, the structures of the form, right? There's planes. There's planar structure. What do we mean by this word planes, right? Planes are going to be, I think, really illustrated through like a box sort of example, right? So if you have a box, your box is going to have planes. What is this eraser? Your box is gonna have planes, right? So we can clearly see that there's a plane over here on the side, right? And there's a top plane, right? And then there's a front plane, and so on and so forth, right? So planes, right? So the structures of the skull, right? They are planar, and this would be the description we'd want to give, first before we get into any of the details. Any of the details, right? So what would be details? Eyelashes, right? Fingernails. We don't have any fingernails in here, but like drawing hair, for example, right? All of those really interesting bits that we want to draw, we want to structure them out first, right? So again, thinking about our last exercise we did, we were drawing a skull. I think I might put on a little music. we've got some fun music that comes with our. So we'll see. We'll see if this. I need to tell Jason. Jason Leeser wants to hop on this show here in just a minute, gang. So we'll get a hold of him shortly. All right, so we're getting started. We're all set. Let's see. Oh yeah, should probably put up one of these. Cool. All right, reinventing. Hey, this is Reinventing the Tattoo. I'm really glad you could make it. I want to say thanks to Guy and everybody at Reinventing for providing the space. We really enjoy it, and I think this is a fun community where, again, it's really interesting doing this online thing. But eventually, we end up meeting in person, and it's really been an incredibly positive thing in my life. So yeah, if you want to learn more, you can visit Reinventing the tattoo.com. Little QR code I'm throwing up right now. Throwing it up. QR code I've placed carefully on the screen for you, so you can scan that, and that ought to take you right to the website. So certainly. Oh yeah, and of course, Tattoo Now. Tattoo Now is technology for tattooers. Take your communication to the next level. If you want to learn more, you can scan that QR code right now. Visit Tattoo Now. You can ask for Gabe. He'll get you all hooked up. So thank you for that interlude, everyone. Loud. Sorry. I'm new here. All right, so this is we're ready. Now that I've messed around, stalled, I can get into we'll get into this. All right, so like I was saying, we want to start off thinking about structure. Structure first. Proportion. Thank you. Anyway, structure and proportion. These are going to be our is going to be our concern as we're beginning. So I've got a brush sort of set here. I think I'll use it. And you can use whatever you feel comfortable with, right? You can use a really sharp pencil if you want, but the initial stages of the block-in are going to be pretty rough, right? So I want to start in a really similar way to how we started our skull drawing. I want to compose the image on the page. So I don't want to just start drawing detailed things and hope that it fits. I want to compose it so it has takes up a certain amount of space on my page, so on and so forth. A bit more focus on this is called the bust, right? So from the head and shoulders, right? Your shoulders up. So that would be that's the part we're going to work on today. Okay. And let's see what I can do. Invite link. Alrighty. So I have this composed, the top and the bottom, right? I'm thinking about the top of the head and the bottom of the chin, and then right to left here. Again, just sort of almost in a similar way. I'm like looking for a central axis here, a center line that will run through the middle, not completely dissimilar to what I just was mentioning with an ellipse. It's there, it's present. This the central axes, right? Major, minor axis. It's not explicit. It's there, it's present, it's not explicit. But we're drawing it explicitly so that way we can structure everything later. So again, I feel like it's kind of it's an important step. Again, we'll clear it away, but it's like a scaffolding, right? You know, you put it there, you make this, you try your best to make this as even as you can in the initial stages. It's not very even, but you know what I mean. You know, there's there's something that you're attempting to represent here, and it's going to be this again. Just to quickly, you know, the head will go in that space, right? So, okay, good. So that can be kind of annoying. Like later on down the road, you know, you'll see some sort of compositional issue, and it'll be impossible to sort of uncover it, right? To sort of untangle the knot. So, all right, very good. This will work for me. Now, when we're constructing head, there's really two parts of the skull, right? Again, back to the skull idea, but there's two parts of the skull that will be really note. That would be the cranium, right? The cranial mass, and then the mask of the face, right? We're not going to deal with as much of the cranial mass in this sort of front-on, you know, symmetrical view. But we are going to see some of it, you know, out here on the very top, right, and then on the sides, right? So you'll want to like give enough of a volume so that the brain fits in there, right? It's the house for your brain. So that part has to be there. Again, we're really going to be more concerned with this sort of mask of the face, which again breaks up into more components. But the widest portion, right, is going to be the temporal, right, the temporal bone. So this is the sides of your cranium here. So this temporal mass. And you know, so you can like again, you can do. Let's see, I'll be by my camera. You can do like a comparative measurement. Let's see if you can see it. If I'm measuring like the width of my face versus like the height of my face, right? You don't want to move around for it to work out. But again, there's a basic comparative measurement that you can do when you're working with a photograph or a flat image. You really could always just you could use a compass, a pair of dividers or something to get this information. I mean, you can trace it as tattoo artists. I'm sure you all trace it a lot. I trace a lot. I think the point of this is that it really is it's a challenge, right? It does sort of stretch those muscles. It takes longer. I think that's a part of the point. It's a part of the point. So it takes longer. So don't rush through. I hope this makes sense. I really do. If this is like you just want to trace it and scribble on the shading and stuff like that and call it done. I think those can be beautiful. So I love drawings like that. This process is a bit more meticulous, and again, it's not like super applicable. Like you have to do it this way. This used to be the way, I guess. The way all right. The way that I'm sort of unfolding this. Would likely it's an academic approach, and it likely would have been, depending on your circumstances, like a part of basically the way, something like this, right? It's like the only way you can do it. Well, we don't live in that world anymore. You can do this. There's a lot of freedom, if you like, right? And that is again, it's kind of an abyss, right? You can do anything. It can be kind of scary if you like, or it can be daunting. And so, again, sort of engaging with some of these historical methods, I think, can be really interesting, even if they're not exactly the way that we would go about it today. It's not exactly the way we go about it today. Certainly, we can. There's something that we can gain from exploring it. Okay, so I'm just sort of like reducing some of this sketchy stuff a little bit. I have a really rough kind of just a height and a width, and then I have found the central, right, this center part, the center point, central line, right, this axis, right, this central axis here. So before I really move into too much like other detail, I do like to do just a very quick like sort of find this brow ridge. Where is it located? I think right here, roughly. So again, a bit of eyeballing it, right? But I am finding, I feel like that feels good, right? It feels good. And so brow ridge right there. Glabella. It's a bone right here. It's a part of the frontal bone, right, where the frontal bone connects to the nasal bone. There's just this little bit of anatomy here, the glabella, and it's for artists, it's this really important structure. It's a keystone type of a structure, kind of like hold your brow up, as it were. So not too detailed, but I do like to establish that. And very quick, and sometimes I'll do, depending on my mood, I can, but like this is important. You got to get this part in, this glabella part. But the next sort of part that I like to establish is the top of the frontal bone, which is so your forehead's this top of your frontal bone, right? So this brow ridge under the nose, and then to the chin. Roughly, again, you're gonna see in when you look at people's faces that they're going to differ slightly from this proportion. There's some relation to it. You're probably never exactly it, if that makes if that makes sense. It's never exactly it, but like you're close to this proportion. You relate to it. Human beings relate to it in some way, and that's a part of how we recognize each other as human beings, sort of like this proportional, this repetition of proportions, and we can recognize it in the other, and then see it in ourselves. So anyway. Cool. All right, so again, so top of the frontal bone, so top forehead, right, very top, just before your head, not the very top of the head. It's like a little bit more. There's like a little bit more up there. It's the very top of this top suture, where the top of your cranium is. It's this crown. It's just a little bit taller. So. Highlight a bit, right? So there, it corresponds to the top of your forehead, top of the head. So there's a little bit more. I think a lot of times when people are explaining this method or like talking about these proportions and stuff, it gets a little that can get lost. So it is. It's like these proportions plus some excess, right? So it's not I hate to say this, kind of rule to follow. It's something. It's closer to a principle of like how nature manifests itself. And So, right. So, now, Loomis method, right? Loomis method. Andrew Loomis, illustrative life-drawing teacher, um, had a method where he would draw this. He would draw this sphere for the head. He roughly like this. I'm sorry. It's terrible. Terrible. Oh my god. Anyway. He would draw a sphere. For demonstrative purposes, I'll try to make it a little bit better. Hey. Circle. And I'll move it just to where I want it. Right? Okay. Okay. All right. It's for demonstrative purposes. I wanted to demonstrate what we're talking about. Circle, so you wouldn't get distracted. Right. Anyway, so here's the circle. All right. So now he would chop off a little part of it. And just sort of get rid of that bit. And we don't need that. It's a circle, but we don't need this. Part. In profile, right? In profile, it looks 3/4 view. And again, just to sort of demonstrate, right? The ellipse. He would say, all right, you're gonna get rid of this portion. Right? It is complex as a concept, but it makes sense. So you've got a sphere, right? You've just sort of chopped off a bit, and then, right, rather than following this or this curve right there, right? There's a flat, right? There's a flat bit. So just like like we're doing here. I hope this makes sense. I really do hope this makes sense. Okay. That is a concept. You know what I mean? Like you can think about it that way. There is a sphere there, but you need to remove some of it because it's not quite like this, right? A sphere, so not quite. So there's a bit of a sphere that's sort of implied there, and then there's a little bit that's removed. I'm not trying to get too detailed, gang. I really am trying to be. Let's see what's up. We've got Jason Lee's here. Jason, how you doing, man?
Doing well, man.
Oh, I can't hear you. I don't know why.
Can you hear me all right now?
No, I can't hear you. You are low. Yeah, 1 minute. I'll let you get your tech figured, and we'll bring it back. All right. But everybody, Jason Leeser, really great to see him. Jason and I we're just at the Puerto Rico International Tattoo Convention in beautiful San Juan, Puerto Rico. If you get a chance, you should come down and join us next year. It really is it's a fabulous convention. Okay. That's roughly. I'm not, I don't hate it. I don't totally hate. So now I would just like to indicate a bit of the neck, right? Just sort of give it the base, right? Just support this head. Let's see. There's Jason. Let's see if we can. Hey, Jason.
Hey, can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, that's much better. Turn your phone.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That, do you
Perfect.
just channel your inner Gabe?
I do. I really do. All the time. Let me see if I can. Well, it's great to see you. I'm.
Yeah, it's been about a solid week since Puerto Rico, man.
Oh, I know. How can I? I want to add. I wish I could. I got to add you in as a little. See, here's me over here, and
Right?
I needed you over here too, or your drawing or something like that. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I mean, I don't really have a drawing right now. I'm actually just making breakfast.
Well, you all right,
Um,
you just make breakfast and we're chit-chatting. I'm drawing
it
a
is the most
self-portrait.
important meal of the day. So
I
you're doing a self-portrait?
I'm doing a portrait of myself
Very nice.
as me. I'm going as me. And I'm trying to be methodical and just and do like a bit of a structured approach.
Okay.
Really uh
Are you going with the Loomis method,
well,
or are you?
I was just talking with everybody about the Loomis method and how it's certainly an important one. And we so I did describe it just briefly, ever so briefly. Um, but but no, just more of describing the planes. I referenced our skull drawing video that we did
Okay.
last week or last stream rather. And so this is sort of the next step. And every year I like to do a self portrait, and I've been doing it here. This is the third time now. This is the third time I've done it on drawing for tattooers. So it's starting to become it's like a regular thing. It's like a regular thing. So
Well, now, so that brings in a very artistically philosophical question, if you will,
yes,
and that is, how do you define a self portrait?
it's that really is. I think that's actually a really interesting question. To be honest with you, I know that maybe it can sound a bit like simplistic, but
Right, right,
it really actually is kind of it really is an interesting, profound question because likely everything is kind of a self portrait. You know what I mean
right.
in that regard. So, but we are getting specific. We're thinking about this in terms of this is actual a drawing we're doing of
Okay,
ourselves, right? Now, the thing that I've always done has been uh, look at a mirror. Have a
right,
mirror set up. You have a mirror set up, and then you're drawing your portrait based on the um, it's like you're looking at the mirror because you're referencing that. You're like doing, you're making all these comparative measurements,
right,
all these other sorts of, checking angles, proportions, and stuff. But it's in a mirror, so it's challenging to get back in the same spot that you were. Right, you're posing for yourself, so you pose, right? You look at yourself, and then you do all the comparison, right, which does take movement, and then you record it right on your paper, and then you got to get back. It's a cycle. Does this make sense? What I'm saying?
right, right, right.
And
Yeah,
it's
it,
sort of
it
like you
very
don't.
much is.
It doesn't make sense until you do it. Until
Right,
you really try to sit and look at a mirror and draw your own reflection, sort of getting back into the pose, and then doing the things you have to do to make the drawing work, and then getting back in the pose. And it really is this. It's a disciplining of your, of your mind and your body in a certain way that I think is really uh, again, it's challenging. It's interesting, and there might be things that you get from it that are really valuable. So, all right, here's this part I think is important, and sometimes can be left out, right, when you're doing a portrait. But if you start to build this part out, I think it really does help, right? So. You can kind of see it ever so subtle on my photographic reference, but the sternal notch, the sternal notch.
ah, yes,
So
the sternal
the
notch.
sternal notch is also known as
One of my
the
favorite notches, by the way.
manubrium. It's also known
Yes,
as the manubrium.
that.
And the manubrium, right? It's a particular spot, right? But it's going to be like roughly here. I want to measure it, so I'm just going to do just a quick measurement. I'll just photograph from here and just quick probably like half of the head height. So, but yeah, you got to. There has to be like enough distance for it. So roughly half of the head is going to like, be there. All right, so sternal notch. It your sternum, your the bone that is in the very front of your rib cage that holds all your ribs together has three parts. The manubrium. Uh, there's the head. The manubrium is like the it's the manubrium, and then there's the body of your sternum, and then there's the lower part, right? The third little part. It's a little tiny bit called the xiphoid process. It looks kind of like this, right? This is like the head.
Another name for the xiphoid process is your solar plexus. That's how I was always taught to refer to it, just
Solar
because,
plexus.
yes.
I don't see. I didn't hear. I don't know. I didn't know that one. I guess I thought solar plexus was were muscles, but
Well, that's same, I guess, area on the body as your xiphoid. The only difference is one's referring to a muscle system, the other one's referring to the actual bone
they're like, look at
or
this
piece
thing
of
that you just
cartilage.
drew. What did you draw here? Well, anyway, this is your rib cage, right? These ribs. These are
Yeah, that
ribs.
does look rather phallic, but
They're gonna come
you
in.
know,
Look, I didn't design it. You're gonna have to take it
hey,
up.
I'm
You're
not
gonna have to
saying you
take it up with
did.
the management, Jason Lee, sir.
I'm,
You don't like the way
hey, hey,
you don't like the way that looks. You're gonna have to take it up with the management. But anyway, all right, we'll get rid of it. Anyway, so yes, it looks crazy, but yeah, if you don't want to know, then just don't look
well,
at
it's
your
the basics
larynx.
of
Don't
human
look at your
anatomy, right?
larynx if you really don't want to know, because
Yeah, right.
that one will get you. Um, okay. The point is there's a bony landmark right there, right at where your rib cage begins. So that distance between your chin and your rib cage, right? It's gonna be it's gonna change slightly depending on the tip of the head, but you'll look for that, look for the relationship. Um, but yeah, uh, from there you get you get your collarbones, clavicles, and they're going to extend out. They're going to meet up at your shoulder blade. So your clavicle bone meets up with your shoulder blade. It's a point called the acromioclavicular joint. So that's where your clavicle meets your acromion process is a little part of your scapula, your shoulder blade. All right. So just rough this in because we're not. I can't see it. It's under the shirt, but I know it's there structurally, right? Kind of like have some structure here. We have trapezius. It is a slightly triangle shaped muscle.
Those are known in the world of pick things up and put them down as your traps.
The traps. You want to you yeah. You want to
But do you even shrug, bro?
you even
Do
trap?
you even shrug?
Look at how bulky. It's starting to look bulky. So definitely like there's a relationship between here and here, some relationship, and it'll what relationship could it be? Well, I would look at the head, or the height of the head, and sort of see. So if I measure it, like the height of the head. So let's see. So this width is how much it should be like. It should be. I just did a measurement. It should be this much based on my measurement.
So I think
Yeah,
one very
that feels good, and it's sort of and I can kind of look. It's like again, I don't want to commit to this spot, but yeah, it's sort of like that's pretty close, man. It's pretty close. Anyway, again, just don't get over detailed yet because you don't know. It might be like you might need to do some changes and stuff, but But
I
yeah,
was gonna say
terrible that whatever's going on there. But
one
yes.
major thing to remember when you're doing stuff like this, essentially, and especially when you're picking out all of these different areas, it's very important to remember that as you're deconstructing something from a photograph, making sure that your anatomy is correct, it's going to help ingrain in you the exact way that you would go through and you would construct a new, hypothetical or imagined figure, right? Because all the areas, the proportions, they're all going to relate to the other. And if you forget something like the xiphoid process or the the oh, now I forget the name of it, the notch,
Yeah,
the
sternal notch. Well, let me
the
say this
sternal
real quick.
notch,
I agree
those are
with you
all key
totally.
parts of human anatomy.
I agree with you totally. But here's what I think, and tell me if you agree. I feel like what you're just describing is like a vernacular. So
Yes,
if you
correct.
want to pick up the proportions of human body and then use them in some other way. It's like you've sort of you're using understandable something that's understandable to another person.
Right.
Does that make sense, right? Like
Exactly. You're
like, I
learning the
understand this as
language.
human, and then you see it recontextualized in some other way, and it could be really interesting or disconcerting. Obviously, it could be very much like art. So, mm,
It's
man,
very much a language,
yeah,
and you're learning the words in the language as you're learning these parts.
yeah. It's well, it's sort of a it's a way. I guess I look at it like this: there's the images we make, right? Just a mark on a page, and people say this on mark making. I don't know if anybody's ever heard that.
Yes.
We have dark and light contrast. That's pretty much it, and that's the level of legibility. Can you make a discernment of one thing to another? Can you discern the figure from the ground? Right, and that's at the level of legibility. The level of readability is some other symbolic language that you're using. So like we're talking about, like referencing the bony landmarks becomes referential of a symbolic of this of a body. And this is what I'm this is a part of it. What I mean, we can make you can make a very graphic, again, like a black square on a white ground, right? You can do that, and it's legible, but it may not be readable, like outside of like, oh, that's a black square, that sort of thing. If you're not reading any deeper into it, you may not get it. Same thing with if you could develop your own character, your own original character, and if it's made up of all sort of idiosyncratic like things you like, it could be great, but it might take people a while to learn how to read your language. Still you can bring legibility, good image making practices to it, but like I think that's what really starts to set art apart as something different, is how the symbolic portion of things get engaged with. I hope that makes sense.
It
I guess
does.
that's the thing that's sort of like, I like what you're saying. Like you can take this and use it for something practical. And it's kind of like, yeah, you're really starting to meet people where they're at, I guess. Uh, so that that I guess it's just something that they can something that they can grab a hold of, I guess.
Right.
So
Well, I mean, when you go through and say you're working in animation or illustration, and you're going through and you're creating or illustrating a character, and you need a character to be in a specific pose with specific, movement going on. Maybe it's the Superman pose, or maybe it's the Avengers. Like I just jumped down from something really, really high pose where they do the superhero landing.
hmm
If you know and you understand your basic anatomy, you can create a very quick gesture drawing off of that will help you lay out where all of those pieces go. That's why it's super important to understand stuff like this, because without the knowledge of, oh, here's my clavicle line that connects to my spinal column, which is, about a half a head below where I know I need my chin to be. Well, now you can go through and find those relational proportions, and boom, it's like everything just unfolds.
Thank you. No, I think that's really well put. And I don't want to make assumptions about, uh, about where people are at with stuff. I'm still working on it. I don't have the answers. I'm just, again, I'm just sort of, this is a way that I was shown how to do this. And for me, I'm sure I have teachers like, I didn't show you how to do it this way or whatever. But I was shown how to do this. I love sharing it. I think there's valuable insights that one can gain, kind of in the of course this quest to know yourself. I think, So anyway, what I'm doing right now is I'm just actually I'm trying to clear the visual field a little bit from any two, again, I was just mentioning it, like this whole idea of legibility, too much legibility, right? It can be distracting, too much contrast, you can really get distracted. So again, you get some, and as tattoo artists too, like, you got the ink all over the place, you got things starting to get marked up, but you might have to like wipe away the excess so that way you can really start to see some of the points, right, that are important. Um,
Right.
but yeah, that is pretty close to I'm getting pretty close to where I want to be today, because today is just block in day, right? I'm just sort of blocking in like where the form and stuff is, and then the whole idea is next week, rendering it. And I would love it if if anybody wants to, uh, if anybody's interested, you could certainly draw your portrait. And, if you wanted to hop on here, you can join tattoos.social. I don't think I have a QR code for tattoos.social. Of course
There
I
should
do.
be one in there.
Of
Yep.
course I do. Tattoos.social. Tattoos and fine art. Tattoos.social is a brand new uh, media hub for reinventing lowbrow know-how, fireside tattoo career builders. We've got the reinventing. Uh, I think this is where we're meeting for reinventing stuff. Um, Additionally, uh, we have monthly gatherings. We watch fun movies. Um, yeah, tattoos.social. Very cool. But if you join tattoos.social, you get updates for when we stream. And then, of course, you can get access. Join us live. So if you'd like to join us live, you know, please feel invited next Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern. And if you want to show your self portrait off, I'd love to see it. And it might very well be a great time to just sort of keep working on them together. Keep working on them. You can show your portrait off. You can get some feedback if you like.
Now, James,
So
I am kind of curious.
yeah,
Out of the different methods that there are to do a self portrait, especially when you're just at the block in phase,
yeah.
why did you choose this method? Was there
Uh,
a reason why you preferred this method over other methods, or because there are some people that would go through and then, maybe they would go through and they would blur out the photo and they would try to just pick out tonal values
huh.
and just try to create tonal value areas in relationship to other tonal value areas. Even if the anatomy wasn't 100% correct, they
Mm-hmm.
knew that if this value was next to this value and across from this value. So, was there a reason why you went with this methodology over a different one?
Yes, totally. And I was talking about it a little bit earlier.
Okay, I
No, no,
apologize
it's
for
all good.
jumping in there.
But I think this is really relevant. And so what I was talking about earlier was describing things in planar relationship. So we have planes, and when I say that we have planes, what I'm of course talking about is just like a block,
Hmm. Okay.
just like a block, right?
That makes
And
sense.
so we've just got these clear three dimensionalities, right? There's a so the idea, especially when you look at a flat portrait, it can get real flat real easy.
Yeah.
But get rid of this block here. What you can have is you could have some 1 point perspective. So you might have a block where you can see a square, and then it starts to go back into perspective. And that's kind of the situation we have here, right? Especially like with the nose portion, right? There's like a very much like a sort of going back into space sort of situation. And the brow ridge too, you can see up underneath. It's rounded over, but that's what we're seeing is up underneath, kind of like we're
Right.
seeing with this block. So, so that was the idea behind it. Was that just like we drew the skull in a 3/4 pose, it was easier to see this more dramatic, um, planar relationship.
Hmm.
So here, and that's a part of the whole this fundamentals as this, right? What you're talking about, I think, is very advanced.
Mm.
Just
Okay.
putting the tonal values next to each other, and so again, if one is to be, one got very very adept at copying the photo very carefully, very faithfully, then you might be able to like just put one tone next to each other, and it does end up working out. Um, but I think that's for me, that feels like it might almost be a bit of a happen. You know what I mean? That might just sort of it
Right.
just
Right.
sort of happens or it doesn't. I like the idea of thinking through it like structurally, being
Okay.
able to take from all of the richness of sensation, right? All like everything we're seeing all the time, all the sense that's coming in, uh, being able to take that and abstract from it. So the vibrant colorfulness of all life, it's is exuberance, and then this cold gray abstraction. And that like you start from there again. You build up from that. Everything is gained, I think, in that movement from vibrant, colorful immaturity to the more mature gray abstraction that again goes through this process, right, where you end up um, coming out the other. There is another side to it, right? So that's
Right.
what I suggest. That what you just described is basically running, where I'm describing the crawling. We're crawling before we
Right.
sprint.
And that makes a lot of sense. It
Yeah,
does.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful doing it the way you described it, and I love people that do it. I think that there's more going on than they're letting on.
Right.
And so if you just again, if you just sort of do it, if you perform a magic trick for people and then you say just do it like this, you know you may have deceived them. Yeah, I say it can cut both ways, right? You could deceive people in a very productive way, right? Or you could deceive people in a very destructive way. These sorts of things, right? So you just do a perform a magic trick, so anybody can do it like me. That may not be fair, but instead of kind of going through this process of uh, you know it's unsure, it looks ugly sometimes. It takes development, um, but you trust it, and at the end something really beautiful can emerge. For me, it of course was the whole time was the process part, was growing through all of the uh, through the discomfort, right? It's not comfortable to draw this way. um, it feels good afterwards. I mean, it can be very rewarding, I think, to accomplish something this way, but does not is not comfortable, I don't think. If that makes sense.
It does
If
indeed.
that makes sense. Right. I hope that did that help or
Yeah. No. It really did.
thank you.
Yeah. And I think this way is a lot more comprehensive. I
Mm,
just wasn't sure,
why?
why you
Totally.
wanted to move in this
Mhm.
direction. So
Yeah, so I think
But it makes sense now.
it is valid, and I've definitely had, I've had people question why in the past, and it's sort of like, and to me, I think it can be really easy to uh, be dogmatic,
Hmm.
right? I get told something, and like that's the way it is forever, without ever, without being thinking critical, right? Without ever being, the other word would be heterodox, right? Without, going against, and that's the thing you just mentioned, like all those people that do really uh, this this interesting approach to image making. They make it real scribbly, and it just looks beautiful. Something, they had to go against the grain a little bit at a certain point.
Hmm.
And so yeah,
And it
all
doesn't always work.
right. It doesn't. Well, that's, I think uh, experimentation is critical. You have to do it. However, when you're performing your art, I believe it really should be a very like professional, practiced thing. Your art, your tattoos, whatever. So again, like have this very like all of this wonderment, all of this, childlike sort of the ability to sort of, to be surprised and to really find a lot of joy in doing things that are, that are new, and you may not get it right away. It might be challenging. So, um, but yeah, again through that process, you're trying to discipline yourself, right? Just like that idea, like we're going to the mirror, and we go back to our paper to draw, and go back to the mirror and go back to the paper to draw. Um, yeah, I hope that's it's not it's not a, it's certainly not like a 12 rules for your life at all. I don't think it's more like, you know uh just get on here and just get here and grind, and don't expect any don't expect any
Right.
results for a long time, and just continue to grind even though the grinding is, uncomfortable, and you're not, and everyone's like, why, what's the point of that? Anyway, so I'm just trying to put in a bit more of these planes, right? I have these basic planes, like sort of front, right, front part of the face, and you can really measure these, I think, really explicitly. But it's like, the very front, the most prominent part of your forehead, is
The
really,
glabellum.
yeah, right here. We've got this glabella right here, and then we've got this frontal bone, um, my hairline. Good to record where that is as it moves. As it moves over the, I'm gonna make it slightly lower because, well, it's my portrait. I can draw it how I want it. I can draw it how I like it, I think so. Um, yeah, and then again, it'll come down. When you really are sort of fine tuning it, it will come down to like a game of millimeters. It really will be just finicky at the end. So it's best. I really, I'm so much happier with myself when I am I'm really able to resist the temptation to go in too quickly with detail, too many details. Some, I mean, you have to go for it. You can't like, uh, you can't like play at it all day. You've got to certainly have to commit. All right, so the middle, right? That's generally where we sort of find this sort of the center line of the eyes. Will probably go through the pupil. Pardon me.
Hmm.
Um, so, and and I think a really helpful way to think of it too is like, so your eye is a sphere,
Hmm.
And your iris is going to be a circle inside of that sphere. This is kind of an olive looking eyeball, but anyway, and then again there'll be a pupil,
And then you have the
there'll
pupil
be
inside of
another
that.
sphere right in it, and then a lot of times this, like, the iris kind of slopes in towards
It's
the, you know
almost
what I
like
mean?
it's almost like a concave dish.
Exactly. It's kind of like that. It's a very strange. It's a sphincter. It's like a
Yeah,
muscle.
yeah,
It's a sphincter. So
pretty
there's a
much is.
limb,
Yeah.
and it's certainly is. These are crude lines I've drawn around it, but you can just to kind of give you the idea. And then the uh, our eyelid wraps around, right. There's a bit of thickness to it. Our eyelid wraps around the sphere of the eyeball, encasing it, and then puffs over it. Um, Wraps around it, right? And I think this is what gets this. These are the sorts of things that can get lost in the structures that can get lost when you're just sort of shading it. If you don't know what you're looking for, that would be the caution that I would caution people. Like, go for it. Try the shade method. Just sort of block it in with shades and try to make it. Try to render it that way. But what you can easily start to lose sight of is that it's the forms of things. It can be difficult to wrangle that. Let's see. We've got somebody in the triggering my anxiety. Well, you are in luck because we're not listening to it anymore. So, uh, yeah, turn it off. If you don't like it, get out. So, because I do like it. So this is the point that I'm trying to make. I'm trying to find where things go. I don't know what layer that's on. Wrong layer society. So now I would I'm not going to try to draw like too detailed of eyes, but more the shape of the lash that we just sort of drew here. And then this, right? So I know we are just talking about like, oh, you want to shade it in, blah, blah, blah. Be careful. And that's kind of how you have to, that's how I approach the shapes of the eyes themselves when I'm sort of doing it initially, is just draw the lash in and then hang the iris off of that. And I don't know. It might be a bit large. It's easy to do. I'll check my proportions later. But yeah, this part I think I can kind of sketch it in a bit, and then I have like pretty prominent, like, I'm not gonna call them bags, but just I'm gonna say lower. It's pronounced lower eyelid. It's somewhat pronounced, so I think it's an endearing quality. So yes. So yeah, something like that. The nose is there. I don't know if it looks like me necessarily. These little edges here, this is where your cheek and your nose mouth area. This is called the nasolabial furrow. Don't ask me. I didn't make it up.
I think you did.
I really didn't. I did not make that up. It's not my I may have called it something. I may have called it that or something different. I don't know. It's a pretty good name. But all right. So before, again, too detailed. It's way too detailed already. Way too detailed. Let's just sort of clean it up again. See what's
I
going
was
on.
going to say, I think you're losing sight of just blocking in planes.
Uh, there is a point where, you know, you're not blocking in planes anymore, but we're not there yet. Okay, so this last bit that I wanted to add here, let's see, we'll flip it around here. I don't know I'm not looking at my reference. I'm just trying to look at this. It's There might need to be a little bit more mass over here. Possible. That's a little better.
Yeah, a little bit more angular.
Yeah, just a little bit more. Again, proportion. And I've flipped it around, so it's hopefully a little easier for me to discern it. But whatevs. No shading yet. Okay, so cheekbones. Your cheekbone is called the zygomatic. So again, a really complicated little, uh, complicated planar structures. Just trying to bring the zygomatic bone and zygomatic arch, because again, it's the as I'll go over here to this reference. Your eyelid again sort of is surrounding the sphere of the eyeball itself, but the eyeball itself, right, is encased in the orbital socket. And your orbital socket in your skull uh, is constructed of the brow ridge up here. I can use a different color probably. The brow ridge up here on the superior part, and then the zygomatic arch down here, the inferior part. So all of those are that's just the anatomical structure. Oops. Just a little. I'm more squinty. I'm slightly squintier than this character. That's it. Look how squinty. That looks so squinty. All right, so zygomatic arch, and I like this angle. I might need to have I need more mass over here, and then maybe more ear. Just a little bit. I'll take some time to kind of, to go over this and make sure that it's, proportioned as I like. It may need a bit of revision, but this is the spirit of the challenge: is to make yourself notice these relationships. That's the idea. And I think that when you may catch yourself at an early stage. Let's see, I want to line this up. Mouth, roughly there. The lower lip is generally sort of upward facing plane, so it's usually getting quite a bit of light. I think my goes slight bit more chin. We can always do a little bit of liquify too. I do love using liquify, but that's not.
It's so
But
satisfying.
that is not what we're trying to do with this. We're trying to, like, again, be serious, like academic self-portrait people, right? So lower lip has upward facing plane, upper lip downward facing plane, generally in shadow. Something like that. Uh, it's a little wide. It's not quite there yet, everybody. So I think with a little bit of I think having a bit of getting a bit of critical distance and not rushing it. You know what I mean? I don't want to rush it all in one go. And sometimes, yeah, we'll just get rid of some of the extra marks. Maybe it's not so bad. It's cute. I think it's cute. Squinty there. Yes. This nose was gesture. I don't want to fall in love with that nose because I really was it was just a quick gesture. Right. Okay. This is the first step of the block in, and I feel pretty good about it. Um, it does need a little work, but I think just as an initial sort of exploration, I'm pleased with the progress, right? And we built it, right? It was a construction. It's so squinty. I don't know. I need a lid, right? An eyelid. That will help. That will help.
Always helps.
It is. I think it's always humorous to see the thing that I end up coming up with, um, especially years down the road. You know, you can take a look, see, and see how you've grown as an artist. Maybe I don't know, but yeah, it's
Well,
just
and I think that's really important too. You have to be able to track your progress.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
This one
that to me has always been a huge thing.
yeah,
Um,
not my worst attempt at this, but also better than some, worse than others. I'm gonna uh, I'll enjoy shading on this a little bit later. Let's see. Yeah, yeah, that was it. That was the show. That was the
awesome.
show. And here, let me get rid of this here for a minute. Yeah. Uh, yeah, it is a bit off. It's like a little wide at the top. I'll work on it. I will. I'll kind of, I'll tease that a little bit. Ugh. It is like I have done demonstrations before, and it really can be uh it can be so embarrassing, to look at your product and, oh, that was what I demonstrated. Um but I don't want to be too tough on this one. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I think
I
you
do
did pretty
enjoy
well.
it. I really do enjoy it. So I'm just oh yeah, this okay, and this is something that I learned a long time ago. I think it's important. It's like this angle. Sorry, I'm like fixated on it. All right, so this is what I'll show you. So um, right here, this muscle. I'm drawing it over here in red for you to see. This muscle right here, on the side of the neck, sternocleidomastoid muscle. So, what does that mean? It's this side. It's the side of your neck, right? These two big muscles, right? It makes this right. It makes this shape that I'm drawing in right here, right? So you've got your throat, and then you've got these two big muscles on the side. So rather than drawing the neck like a trunk, you know what I mean, or just two lines or something like that, it's the sternocleidomastoid muscles and trapezius, right? And then this throat, this throat area. Starting to put all those bits of anatomy into like your neck and stuff, and they help the portrait. They certainly do help the portrait part. Um, but yeah, no, you know what? Like, I just saw some great Sean Barber paintings,
Love
right? So,
Sean Barber
like, yeah, I
paintings.
love Sean Barber, and he's a great tattooer. But he does this like really fun painting thing, where he paints portraits. Um, I'm not going to suggest he paints exactly the way I've described, but there's a certain academic quality to the way he paints, and it's very likely that learning something similar to this would have been a part of how he was able to learn how to paint the way he does. So there are all kinds of ways to make art, and this is just one approach like uh,
Yeah,
it's just one approach of many that so we're not really even scratching the surface, as it were. It is a wide world out there, and that's a part of what makes this so much fun. Um, yeah, I love being able to come in here and oop, and draw with everybody, um, sketch around a little bit. But again, it really is. You end up meeting real life friends and comrades, right? So
correct.
this is. I know. I'll keep messing with it. I'll stop. I will stop. Now's the time. Now's the time. But but yeah. Well, anyway, so that's I'm gonna work on this next week as well, and I would love if anybody does it. Let me know. Let me know, and I will love to check it out. It's not so bad. I think there's some potential here.
I would say so.
There's some potential. We got
Great foundation, great start.
thanks, buddy.
See where it goes next weekend.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes next week. And yeah, so I'm doing it. We're doing the stream.
We're
And
doing the things.
it's a labor of love. I love doing it. But it can really be it can be a labor of love. So but I am glad to be here. Uh
Well, we're happy you're here.
there it is. Hey, um this was a blast. I'm really glad I did. Whenever I get on here and stream, I'm always glad I did it. So, um, I will. I'm gonna sign off. And are you streaming today, Jason?
I am today at noon.
All right.
Feel free to catch me. We are working at the Skill Building Monday Drawing Group here live on the Reinventing the Tattoo Network. And today we are going to be doing a convention overview of where we just were, some of our fun antics that we got up to, some of the things that we learned. And we're going to be working on either a value rendering of a dragon or drawing roses.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, can't wait to catch up with you about it. Had such a fun time at the convention, and yeah, all the hijinks.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it really was. It really was great. So, all right. Well, I just put it up again right here. Reinventing the tattoo. Scan that QR code; it'll take you right there. Tattoos.social. If
That's
you
where you
really
can
want
find
to, yeah,
us.
you want to catch up with us. This is a really great way to do it. Uh, Tattoo now.
Thank you, Tattoo
Can't
Now.
recommend it enough. I won't lie. Like I use it, and it helps me communicate with my clients. It helps them know that we're connected, right? That I'm thinking about them, that their appointment is coming up. So there are some basic things that it does. There's some really advanced things that it does. So I really think it's worthwhile investment. Yeah, and join the APT. The Alliance for
Yes.
Tattooists really is. I think it might be our way to unite and have some say in the issues that may impact our tattoo community and our communities more broadly. So do consider joining the alliance, and that's it, and that's all. So
Awesome.
again, join us at noon for Skill Building Mondays. Jason Weezer, right here on Reinventing the Tattoo Network. This has been Drawing for Tattooers. I'm your host, James Wisdom. Happy drawing, everybody, and we'll see you next stream.